Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World. Tonight on my show we have trade unionist Andy McDonald. He's going head to head with Emma Webb, and he's also going head to head with Alp Mehmet. We've got a brilliant young lady actress on the show for the first time. She's going to be plugging her movies. She's one to look out for, that's Charlotte Kirk. And we've got the legendary Wayne Sleep, ballet dancer. He's a bag of laughs. But first, let's go to the news.
Good evening, I'm Sophia Wensler in the GB Newsroom. Two teenagers who killed Brianna Ghey in what's been described as a sadistic attack have been jailed for her murder. 16-year-old Scarlett Jenkinson, who for the first time admitted stabbing the transgender teen, will serve a minimum term of 22 years. Her accomplice, Eddie Ratcliffe, was given a minimum of 20 years. The court heard after coaxing Brianna to a park, they stabbed her 28 times in a frenzied and ferocious attack with a hunting knife. In victim statements, Brianna's family described her killers as two predators stalking their prey and said they are pure evil. A manhunt continues tonight for a suspected chemical attacker, with police saying they found significant and important new evidence. A new image has been released of Abdul Azidi, who was last seen at London's King's Cross Underground station on Wednesday evening. Police say the 31-year-old mother who was attacked is still sedated in hospital with life-threatening injuries. Met Police Commander John Saville appealed for public help in tracing the suspect.
In terms of our manhunt for Azedi, we've got a large team of very experienced detectives leading the manhunt, using all the tactics that you would expect us to use. Thankfully, due to the great response we've had from the public, we're able to follow him and know that he got on a train at 9 p.m, a Victoria Line tube heading south.
There are fresh warnings of potential human rights breaches on the BB Stockholm barge as asylum seekers face what's being described as claustrophobic conditions. The Home Affairs Select Committee says cramped living conditions are contributing to a decline in mental health for some residents. The cost of housing asylum claimants on the barge is £120 per person per night. It comes as the Home Office has asked for an emergency £2.6 billion after spending more than expected on asylum accommodation. Last year, the government spent around £8 million a day for migrant accommodation, with official figures showing that more than 50,000 were housed in hotel rooms. And charges against Greta Thunberg have been thrown out of court. The climate campaigner has appeared at Westminster Magistrates Court for a public order offence after protesting in London last year. She was arrested during the demonstration near Mayfair in October as oil executives met for the Energy Intelligence Forum. However, Judge John Law said today that police had tried to impose unlawful conditions during the protest. Greta and 4 other activists pleaded not guilty in November to blocking the entrance to the meeting. And for the latest stories, sign up to GB News Alerts by scanning the QR code on your screen or go to gbnews.com/alerts. Now, it's back to Lee Anderson.
Today I'm joined by the chairman of Migration Watch, which is Alp Mehmet. Thanks for joining me on the show for the first time, Alp. Nice to see you, mate.
Good to see you.
And he's back, he's to the left in the corner, he's a socialist, he's a Labour Party member, he is Andy McDonald. He's from my neck of the woods. Let's see what he's got to say today. But first we're going to talk, Alp, about immigration, migration, legal migration and illegal migration. Do you think there should be a cap on the number of people coming to this country?
Of course there should. Of course there should. Otherwise, how on earth do you control it? What the government has done really over the last 4 or 5 years has actually handed over control to the employers, to the universities, opened the door ever more widely, really, and has very little control of those who are actually coming in at the moment. That's why net migration has shot up. The year before now, 745,000 net. That's massive, absolutely massive. The last count to June 2023, what happened? We've got 672,000 people net. And they're welcoming that. Oh, it's falling. No, it's not.
Yeah, but some people may say that this is actually helping us grow the economy, it's making us more productive, we're producing more things, etc. I don't think that's the case, because I was always taught, I did a little bit of economics at school, you might not believe that, but the way you become more productive in a business is to do more with less people. It's the same for the economy, surely.
Yeah, but that's not actually happening. We haven't got fewer people doing it, we've got more people doing it. What happens is, yeah, the economy grows because there are more people here, so it's better. But per capita, you and me, it's remained pretty much flat for the last 10, 15 years.
So let's go over to our left in the corner, trade unionists, Labour Party members, socialists, other things, Andy McDonald. Should we have a cap on immigration?
Oh, I think we should, but it's got to be reflective of the economy's needs and also the wider British society's needs. You know, we can't keep having a university system that is reliant on foreign students, but then go, actually, no, you're not allowed foreign students anymore. You know, there needs to be serious reform in our co-op industries to actually allow them to survive without migration.
You think some of these universities are actually taking advantage of our immigration system?
I think some of them are, yeah, because there's no way for them to really fund the research that they want to otherwise.
Yeah. When you say research, Andy, I mean, I'll come back to you all, because I see a lot of these universities, I think they're just making up these Mickey Mouse courses, and people come over from all around the world to do these courses, then bring the partners and children, whatever. It creates a massive strain on our public services, and actually, I don't think the degree courses they're doing serve any purpose.
Well, that aside, and some of the universities, some of the lower tier, as someone has described them, universities.
What does that mean?
It means not as high performing, the ones who don't require as high grades to accept people. They'll take anybody in so long as they can pay. Yeah. And we've got to the stage now when, frankly, they're not just reliant. They claim that they need the money in order to subsidise, to support British students. No, it's in order to pay for the whole lot, to pay for the administrators and the rest of it, and the high salaries that a lot of them do actually earn. That's what they want the foreign students for. Perhaps we should think about having fewer universities. Hey, that would be an idea.
Fewer universities.
Well, I do agree. I think the transformation of polytechnics into universities was a mistake. You know, looking at coming from Mansfield, a lot of people would have gone to, you know, Nottingham Polytechnic, but now it's Nottingham Trent University. Yeah. And a lot of skills have been lost in our area because of it. So I do agree, but I think that ship has sailed.
West Nosttech now, which is
actually a Nottingham Trent University affiliated campus. But you know, that ship has sailed at this point. They've already been transformed. Okay. But I think, you know, if they were making all this money and paying all these high salaries, why can't they afford to pay their postgraduate researchers a decent wage? If it was purely for that reason.
What's Labour's stance on this, Andy? You're a Labour Party member, you're active within the Labour Party. If the unthinkable happens and they do get elected later this year, is it going to get better or worse?
I can't see it getting much worse. Over the last 5 years alone, we've had 5 different Home Secretaries. Clearly, this is not a Conservative government that actually is taking migration seriously. So I can promise you.
Seriously, I mean, we nearly had Diane Abbott as the Home Secretary. Would it have got better within mathematics.
You know the tensions within the Labour Party better than I do. Andy does as well. And I know that even some of the policies that have already been announced,
Like the Rwanda
they've been
scheme.
challenged. Yeah, the Rwanda scheme is going to be abandoned, whatever happens. We're never going to see the fruits of any success, if there is any. And I'm afraid that once the Labour Party are in power, they will find how difficult it is, and indeed what the anchors are that weigh them down when it comes to the proper right immigration policies that we need if we're going to reduce the rates and scale of immigration that we've got at the moment, which is massive.
Andy, from Sir Keir Starmer, when he talks about tackling illegal migration, is we're going to smash the gangs. What does that mean?
I think it means that they're going to set up a processing unit in France to go straight to the centre of where the gangs make most of their money. So those that are legitimate can access safe and legal routes, and those that can't, we can then say everyone on those small boats is not legitimate. Yeah. That's what I think his point is there.
I don't think that they really know how immigration works. And it's not a case of going after the gangs. We're already doing that, for goodness sake. That our police, our agencies, they're working very closely with the French and other of the EU agencies that they need to work with. That is just a nonsense. It's effectively saying we're not going to do anything about it.
OK, let's let the cat out of the bag, shall we? You're an immigrant. You came here as a child from Cyprus, but you're so passionate about this subject, about us controlling migration and having a cap. Why is that so?
Because it was the country that my parents came to, and they committed to this country. They committed to what this country was about. It was something that I grew up being taught to have a belief, a faith in this country, to like what it had to offer. And that is what I see now changing. And that is what worries me, because there's not just immigrants like me, although in fact, I came from a bit of the empire while it was still part of the empire. But a lot of people in your constituency, they feel very strongly about the country that has made them what they are, and which is now being undermined and being changed. And that is serious. It's going to lead to all sorts of instability, I think, and the cohesion that we value is going to be in jeopardy.
Is it in jeopardy, Andy, the cohesion, the social cohesion, which Help talks about?
I think in some regards, yeah, where there hasn't been a proper transition. You know, you look at some parts of South London and some parts of North London.
Well, I don't think there's been a proper transition anywhere, Andy, in my opinion. I think people just arrive and just settle into their little groups.
I disagree. I think, you know, you look across the Midlands, there have been a lot of Eastern European communities that have come over the years, you know, Ukrainians, Polish, Albanians, who have actually settled quite nicely. You know, in Mansfield, I remember going to school, we had a lot of Polish kids. They got on as well as I did. You know, and I think in some regards they have actually climatised very, very well. But it's a case-by-case basis. I think there have been conscious efforts by district councils and county councils in some areas to make sure that social transition has been done. And I think that needs to be continued across the country.
Yeah, but you talk about the Eastern Europeans. I mean, you know, correct me if I'm wrong. The Eastern Europeans, the Ukrainians, the Estonians, the Latvians, they've had a tradition of coming over since, you know, the Second World War and integrating and making a massive contribution towards our society.
The Poles had their own regiments, their own squadrons in the Air Force.
And the Battle of Britain, we couldn't have won that without the Poles.
Well, I don't know about that, but certainly they played a significant part in what was going on. But look, that's an example of where mass immigration, on the scale that it is at the moment, at the speed that is happening at the moment, how it even undermines the relationship between people like the Poles and those in this country, the indigenous bit of the country.
Yeah, but of course, Andy, a lot of people will look at this and think, well, Tony Blair started all this back in the early days of his premiership, and he did, didn't he?
Yes and no. I mean, you know, you can track it back to the Windrush generation if you really want to look at a large level of migration into the country. But I'm sure
that wasn't free movement, was it?
It was to an extent.
It was also tiny, for goodness sake. There were more Cypriots coming in at that time than there were people coming in from the Caribbean. I think that's an example of something being weaponised, frankly.
It is, and it's interesting now. Andy, I'm going to come back to you, because when we've been in the chamber over in that place over there, when the Shadow Home Secretary is challenged and tackled over what would you do Where would you send illegal migrants? We are yet to have an answer. Why is that?
Because there's no clear route at the moment. The Tory government wants to send them to Rwanda.
Yeah.
It's a baffling.
But if their home country won't accept them, where would the Labour Party send them to?
I don't speak for the Labour Party. I don't know. I'm not in the fold with the vet.
But you are a Labour Party member?
I am a member of the
with
Labour
ambitions.
Party. Everyone's got ambitions, Lee. Everyone's got ambitions. But I'm not in the Yvette Cooper policy advisory team.
So if you was the Shadow Home Secretary, what would your policy be on where would you send illegal migrants that can't go back to their home country?
Oh, send them back to France. Deal with it across the channel.
Like me, don't you? Send them back to France.
There you go.
I got in trouble for saying that.
You've really put your finger on it. I think that's the whole issue. Yeah. It's all very well to clear them quickly, but then you've got to be able to send them somewhere as well.
Yeah.
And a safe third country is perfectly reasonable.
I think so.
Somewhere.
But just tell me something before, because we've got to come to the yes or no quiz in a minute. Why is it people leave France, a safe country, to come to this country, and the left, including Andy's lot, say they're fleeing persecution, they're fleeing wars? Well, they're not, surely.
No, the French actually refuse 3 times more than we do those who are seeking asylum there.
Yeah.
They come here because they can, frankly. Yeah. In the end, once they get here, they know. And this is what the traffickers sell to them. Don't worry, we'll get you there, and once you're there, they're not going to throw you out.
Yeah.
That's what attracts more and more and more. And when the Archbishop of Canterbury, joining forces with others in the House of Lords...
You know what, I walked past his house, well, one of his homes, on the way to work most days, Lambeth Palace. That's got hundreds of spare rooms in there. I did write to him a couple of years back and ask him to give up some of his rooms to put up the illegal migrants. I'm yet to have a response. But look, do not go away. Coming up next, we've got the yes or no quiz. It's time for the yes or no quiz. We've got Alp here and Andy's back here. I think this is your second time, isn't it, Andy?
Yeah.
You said yeah?
Yeah.
That's one wrong. No, I'm only joking. We'll start from the top. So, you know the rules, guys. It's a simple yes or no answer. Then at the end of the quiz, you can go back and qualify one of the questions. Alp, I'll start with you. I think I know the answer already, but let's just try it. Should there be a cap on immigration?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Right, to you, Andy. Should the rail industry be renationalised?
No.
Alp?
No.
Number 3, Alp. If it's a Biden-Trump election, if you're an American citizen, would you vote for Trump?
Yes.
Andy?
No.
Wow. Clear water between you. Anyway, number 4. Andy, should the NHS be privatised?
No.
Alp?
Yes.
Struggled a bit, but I'll give you that. And Alp, the last question, should the BBC licence be scrapped?
Yes.
Andy?
No.
Right, Andy, which one do you want to go back to?
I want to come back on number 2 about the railways being nationalised.
Yeah.
I don't believe in the renationalisation of the railways, but I think there should be a deep devolution to the local combined authorities.
More devolution?
Well, I think, you look at Transport in Greater Manchester, the B-Network bus and trams, they're the best they've ever been. Yeah. They're on time, they're cheap, they're efficient, they're fantastic. Andy Burnham's done a really great job with that. I think if you applied that model, Avanti West Coast in the Manchester-based train company, couldn't get much worse. So if we gave Andy Burnham control of that, I'm sure he'd get it fixed. So I believe in deep devolution.
I don't believe in devolution. I think we handed over whole, rafts of money and power to sometimes people who aren't fit to be in public office. But that's another debate. Listen, Alp, which one do you want to come back on?
Devolution has been a disaster, but that aside, I would like to go back to Trump, because unpleasant though he can be, and some people would argue that's what he is as an individual. In fact, if you look at the policies, particularly the southern border, everything that he said would happen if it was opened up has. Biden, he in fact went down the open door route, and it's proved a disaster. More and more have come. And in addition to that, Trump actually does like this country. Biden, I don't think, does.
I don't think Biden knows what date it is at the moment, does he?
Well, He should have a lot of people around him, good people who tell him what the day is.
Advisors, sensible advisors. I make that 5 each, so I think that's a bit of a record on this show. But do not go away, because coming up next we have a dancing legend. We're going back in the day with ballet dancer, former ballet dancer, Wayne Sleep.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's Live here on GB News. Every Wednesday we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions when Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer go head-to-head in the House of Commons.
We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's Live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox,
That's right, we want to hear from you,
GB News.
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, I've got a real-life Billy Elliot, Wayne Sleep. You're taller than I thought you was.
Well, yes, I've suddenly grown.
Yeah.
Because I tried a chair before and I disappeared under the table.
It's quite imposing.
This is the only one they've got left here.
Wow, look at that. That's great. Look, Wayne, let's take a trip down memory lane.
Yes.
Back to when you was at school. So I said at the beginning, a real-life Billy Elliot.
Yes.
And you was, because you started dancing at an early age at school.
Yeah.
And how did that start?
Well, we moved from Plymouth to County Durham, where I lived in Hartlepool. And I started training there. I wanted to do tap dancing. I wanted to be like Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, because we'd seen all the movies, you know, queuing at the cinema. And I got into the West Hartlepool Tech. Oh no, before that, when I was 8, I went in for a competition and I wanted to be, you know, in musicals and stuff like that. And the adjudicator said, "Where's this boy's mother? He must learn ballet." And my mother ran out of the auditorium because we thought ballet, well, it's for girls, and Men in Tights is Benny Hill sending up the idea of it all. And it didn't have a very good name either, especially when I went to the West Hartlepool Tech. And I was hooker in the scrum and all that, joining in. But as soon as they heard that I was going to a dancing school, "Where's your skirt, Sleepy?" and, you know, go on your little puff and all that sort of thing. But that year, when I was 11, I got into it. I went in for the Christmas concert. You could audition to be in the Christmas concert, where they joined the boys' school and the girls' school together. So there was a Christmas party every year, and I auditioned, and I did a hornpipe. Well, when the whole school of 400 girls and boys saw it, they gave me an encore, and ever after that, they stopped the bullying, funnily enough, because I could do the splits. And the fifth form would corner me in a toilet and say, "Do the split, Sleepy, or else." So I just do the splits, and, you know, they'd just laugh, and I got away with it.
So you must have been incredibly brave, Wayne, to, you know, at that time, because it's a few years ago, obviously, you know, going back 50, 60 years, to be doing ballet in what is a working class area.
Yes.
Like you say, bullying at school.
Yeah.
I mean, most young men or girls would have just turned their back on it and just got on with life, but you carried it on.
Well, I was lucky because when I was 12, they sent me, this is like Billy Elliot, they sent me to audition for the Royal Ballet School, where I'd become a boarder and live in the school. And I got the scholarship out of 300 kids. There only was 2 scholarships. And I left the West Hartlepool Tech, where I was hooker in the scrum, and went to live in Queen Victoria's hunting lodge in the middle of Richmond Park when I was 12 years old. And of course, all the bullying stopped. I don't know if I'd been able to take it that much longer after 12, you see. Yeah. So a lot of kids would keep on after 12, and then finally, against the odds, give up. But I was lucky.
So there's bullying then, and I did read somewhere, I think it was in the Telegraph, an article that at one stage in your life you got a little bit depressed because of your height. You're 5'2".
Oh,
you look taller in real life, actually.
Isn't this good? I think I'll carry it with me everywhere.
Yeah, but I mean,
well, I'm back in my high chair.
do you think the height and that insecurity of your height has driven you as well?
I was determined because I was getting first in everything and all the medals and stuff like that. So I knew I had some talent. It wasn't like I was flogging a dead horse anyway, just because I didn't want to be a ballet dancer. I was sort of just good at it. Yeah. And I think that drives you on as well, if you keep coming first and winning things. Yeah. But I just feel that my height was terrible because when I was 16, I stopped growing. And boys have to be 5'7" at least to get into the Royal Ballet. I think it's 5'9" now. Because they have to be taller than the girls, and the girls are getting taller. And when they go on their toes, they're another 6 inches. Yeah. Some people are foot if they've got big feet. No. But so I was no use to them, really. So I won all these scholarships from 12. Then I didn't materialise. Then I wasn't able to offer them back. But luckily, there were choreographers like Sir Frederick Ashton, Annette de Valois, Rudolph, and they all did stuff on me. So it gave me a career. The actual repertoire of the company, I could never play the Prince. I could never, play Romeo and Romeo and Juliet. I was too small. So I knew that I was going to be limited. And that's why when I got time off, I kept tap dancing, learned to sing. And then Andrew Lloyd Webber asked me to create the part of Mr. Mistopheles in Cats. So that was an opening to go into the West End, but I still kept my ballet as well.
Wow. Now, charitable causes, you've got your own foundation, I think, Wayne. Can you explain a little bit about that? And I think we'll put a link on that as well.
Oh, that would be lovely. It's called the Wayne Sleep Foundation. It's 25 years old this year. And I started a year after Princess Diana's death in memoriam of her. And it's for students and kids. And it's to give them, make up the money for their board and lodgings if the parents can't afford it and stuff like that. Yeah. And this year we gave 12 away.
Wow.
And I go on things like, well, I used to go on things like, they haven't asked me back, by the way, The Chase, which I won, and we did Family Fortune, so we won that.
So Family Fortunes, Wayne, I bet if we asked 100 people in the street, where did you get those socks from? Nobody'd know. Let's have a look at the socks.
You want to see my socks? I always wear front socks because they're rather lovely, aren't they?
Yeah.
I think they're matching. Isn't that nice?
I don't think they are matching, are they? Are they matching?
We could play Ludo or something.
Yeah, they're making my eyes go.
Oh, they are matching, I think. Let's see how far up they go.
Yeah.
Ooh, look
well, they're making my eyes go a little bit funny, Wayne.
Yes, making my feet feel.
But you spoke earlier about these. You set this foundation up a year after Lady died.
Princess Diana died, yes.
You danced with her, didn't you?
Yes, at Covent Garden we danced on stage at the Royal Opera House. was quite a surprise for her husband. It was meant to be a surprise and Christmas gift for him.
Yeah.
And we got 8 curtain calls and she wanted to do it again. I said, no, leave them wanting more. And I said, you know, you have to bow to the royal box, you know, because we murmur, we murmur under our breath, you know, bow to the royal box. She said, oh, not, he's my hubby. I said, well, I have to, and I pushed it down. And as we ran out, she said, you won't get your OBE like that, dear. And we used to have great fun after that.
Yeah.
For about 10 years, we used to see each other off and on. And she always said, I'll do the jokes. And, you know, she advised me a lot as well, you know, when press was anti me and stuff like that. And because suddenly I'd become known for knowing her.
Okay.
And I didn't quite know how to deal with that, so she taught me lots of tricks.
So, young boys wanted to get into ballet.
Yes.
But daren't make that, because there's still a bit of a stigma around,
Well,
isn't it?
quite frankly, there was only 5 boys in my class of 25 girls at the Royal Ballet School. Each form only had 4 or 5 boys. And now it's 50% boys and 50% girls. So the stigma's going away, but the boys are really good at it now. And in fact, I think the boys are doing...
I know, when all these boys back in the day, when you were young, taking the mickey out of boy ballet dancers, but it's quite physical, isn't it?
Well, you can't. You know, once you see them doing these one-arm lifts and the whirling things they do in the air now, it's incredible. I mean, I could do those sort of things 40 years ago, but there were very few of us then, but a lot of the kids can do it now. And it's exciting to watch. And it's like the Olympics. It gets higher and higher levels every year.
And you're still keeping fit now?
Well, I'm trying to. I'm a little bit... Don't look. But I'm doing... For older people online, I'm doing workouts. I've just done 4 with Best Magazine of every Friday, and I'm going to go to Pineapple Dance.
So how do we find those?
We'll be advertising them when we get the dates out, and then I've got my autobiography coming out in September.
What's that called?
It's called Just Different.
Just Different.
Because I am,
well, yeah, obviously a little bit different, yeah.
Well, because I was so small, I had to do things more excitingly than a lot of the other dancers. I had to make my mark every time I went on to prove why I was there, because they'd say, why is the midget here? You know, sort of that.
You're a bit of a fighter, aren't you?
Well, they used to, you know, they used to say derogatory things to me when I was in the company, you know, sort of look down on me thinking, why is he here?
Yeah.
You know, but then every time I went out there and they heard the applause, they suddenly realised.
Well, you are here, and it's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Wayne.
Lovely to meet you.
That was fantastic, that was. Look, coming up next, do not go away, because we've got Emma Webb, Andy McDonald, the trade unionist for Right versus Left.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall? Let's find out together. For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 till 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Joining me now for Right versus Left is the ever lovely, the beautiful Andy McDonald and Emma Webb. I caught you out with that one again. Emma, let's talk about the NHS. I know you're quite passionate on this subject. We see record amounts of investment, money going into the NHS. I know the left will bang on about the £350 million a week on the bus, on the Brexit bus. It's actually more than that we're pumping into that. Is it a failing model?
Of course it is. I mean, anybody who's had any experience of it knows that it is. That's not something that is in dispute. I mean, people might disagree about the way to solve the problem, but we know that, I mean, there are places across the country, and it's a complete postcode lottery, where you can't get to see a dentist at all. In some places you have to wait, never mind months, years, to get, on the waiting list for certain issues. It varies wildly according to where you are in the country. The reality is that people's experience of the NHS is that it is completely failing, that we have a universal lack of healthcare.
Let's just introduce that nasty word into the conversation, privatisation. Would you do that?
Yes, I mean, when you say privatisation, it's the same as nationalisation. You need to specify exactly what you mean. But the reality is that it isn't just a decision between the model that we have now, which is completely failing and is a big black hole for taxpayers' money, and also we're paying into it and getting very little in return, with the sort of bloated bureaucracy that is just sucking all of that money in. And then on the other hand, the American model. So I think, and actually, I hate to say it, but Wes Streeting was right in travelling around to look at different models and saying that the NHS should be a service, not a shrine, because we do need to look at the way other models work. There are private models that could work, and we need to be less arrogant in saying, our NHS is the envy of the world. It's not. It needs to change, and it needs to change radically now, before more people suffer and die as a result of its failings. So yes, I'm sure that there is a privatised model, or an increasingly privatised reform that could fix the problem, because the current situation as it currently stands is not sustainable at all.
Is Emma right?
I think, yeah, I agree. I don't agree with the privatisation of it, but I do think that it's an objective. It is failed. It's a failure of a system. The waiting lists are, I think almost 2 years long for some people. It's ridiculous. Nurses have taken strike action for the first time in history. Yeah. When you've got these kind of historical milestones happening, something's going wrong. I think we need to get the university trusts that have been running awry with our National Health Service in line. We need to centralise it, and we need to keep them to a high standard.
Let's talk, Andy, about the abuse of the NHS. It's almost become a international health service. We know people that's coming from different countries with various illnesses, some serious illnesses, just to take advantage. Well, I think we call them health tourists. Is it time we clamp down on that?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's if only we had a member of the governing party sat with us at this table and they could do something about it. Like, please, I'm sure that if the Labour Party win the election, either in May or November,
they'll cut migration. They'll sort out illegal migration.
I think they will.
They'll stop health tourism.
Well, after 14 years, the Tories seem to have a deficit. There's not much on the legislative agenda in the Commons, and they're not really doing much else. So clearly, they've got a deficit of ideas. So I'm glad that one party has some ideas about something.
Well, no, it's easy to have ideas. It's very difficult to actually do something about it. And I think that the Labour Party,
had 14 years to do something about it.
The Labour Party would face the same practical challenges that the Conservative Party have had. Although I do think actually that a Labour government would probably have more success in privatising the NHS because they wouldn't face the political difficulties that a Conservative Party would face.
Would they go for it, Andy, privatising the NHS? I mean, Wes Streeting seems to be saying the same sort of things that many of my colleagues are saying.
I think Wes Streeting is right on some things about the NHS. I think he's looking at a somewhat cooperative model between the private and public sectors, which is...
But we have that already, don't we?
Yeah, well, I think an actual... we've got one just in name only at the moment. These university trusts are kind of like a bit bizarre in their constitution. But I think Wes Streeting is looking at a cooperative model, so not full privatisation, but just a sprinkle of the private sector.
And it gets my goat, Emma, when I see people on the left banging on about we need more money for the NHS, and then I see some of the vacancies they've got advertised for all these diversity roles. I see them, buying all these different flags and all these, the diversity courses and inclusivity courses they're running. Surely, if they were struggling for money, they wouldn't be doing this.
On unbelievable salaries, some of those diversity roles that are in management, part of the sort of bloated bureaucracy, while you have frontline staff like doctors and nurses striking and putting patients' lives at risk. So it's not about how much money the NHS receives, it's about how efficiently it uses that money. And it's become almost like a kind of unreformable Soviet bureaucracy. And so I think you really need to have a sort of like military approach to and like I said before, you can't talk about this in the abstract. We can't talk about privatisation or nationalisation. We need specifics. We need to figure out where the inefficiencies are, and then we need to tear them out and reform the system. So
you made a point about the unions holding the health service to ransom and ultimately costing lives, which I think the strikes have cost lives. And you're a trade unionist. How do you square that one with some of your colleagues in the trade union movement going on strike and putting patients' lives at risk?
Obviously, when it's an essential service like the NHS and healthcare, there are minimum service levels.
Do you agree with that?
I think in the NHS, I think there have been minimum service levels for a long time, and they will continue to be. And the RCN, the BMA, Unison, whomever it may be, whether it's paramedics, nurses, doctors that are striking, they do match those minimum service levels. So I think there are the precautions taken. But the fact that we had, Steve Barclay, who was health secretary for the last few years, now Victoria Atkins, they've just failed to come to the table. It's the last, you were a striking minor.
I wasn't on a striking minor.
You went on strike when you were a minor.
I wasn't.
Yes, you did.
No, I started the pit. Fact check. I started the gold mine a year after.
You still took day strikes, no?
Yeah, I took day strikes.
Yes, that's what a striking minor means. You were so fact check.
He bangs on.
He was a striking minor.
When we was legislating for these minimum service agreements, the Labour Party was up in arms, saying you're taking away the right for doctors and nurses to strike and get better pay and better conditions.
It wasn't about the NHS, it was about the railway primarily, wasn't it?
Yeah, well...
the minimum service levels.
I mean, it's not possible for doctors and nurses to strike without endangering patients. I don't believe that there's a way for them to safely do that. And you're right about when you say, 14 years of Tory rule. I don't disagree with you because I think that, and as someone who voted for the Conservatives in 2019, I feel enormously disappointed, and you know that I do, Lee, and it's not you, it's the leadership of the rest of the leadership of the party. I feel enormously disappointed, but I don't believe for a second that the Labour Party would be more responsible and would do a better job with complicated things like reforming the NHS. I think that the situation would only get worse, and one of the things that puts massive pressure on the NHS is immigration. And I think that would be far, far worse under the Labour Party too.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Look, guys, that's been a great debate. And it's always a pleasure to have you on the show, even though we disagree. No, we don't actually disagree on most things. I think I need to check your Labour membership card. I think you've probably got a blue card in your pocket somewhere.
Crypto Tory.
He is, isn't he? He's a secret Tory. Look, do not go away, because coming up next, we've got a fantastic actress talking about James Bond, and that's Charlotte Kirk.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests, and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
Affects us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
That's last orders at the bar. I've got a movie star with me now, Charlotte Kirk. Thanks, Charlotte. You produce films, write films, star in them. Seen a few clips early on where you're doing a bit of fighting.
Yeah.
And you started off at the, I think, the Itali Conti drama school.
Yes.
Why acting?
Why acting?
Yeah, why acting?
It's something that I've always wanted to do and never really thought about. I never thought I could do anything else or wanted to do anything else. It's the only thing that felt right to do.
So as a young girl dressing up and putting the makeup on and doing little plays and stuff like that?
Oh yes, all the time. Drove my mum absolutely mad. Always being different characters and, you know, dressing up and embarrassing her in public.
Yeah. So you got a film out later this year?
Yeah, 2 films this year.
Okay.
Yes. Duchess. It's not Duchess. Period drama is what you think it is.
I gather that.
It's a kick-ass gangster, British gangster movie.
Yeah.
And Compulsion, which is an erotic thriller. Duchess is there's something that I co-wrote as well as Compulsion, co-wrote, produced. And
so before we started filming, you showed me some of the clips on your phone.
Yeah.
It's quite some aggressive moves in there. A lot of energy, should we say?
Yes.
And what about stunts? Did you do stunts yourself?
I do a few of my own stunts, not all of them.
Yeah.
I leave, you know, the real dangerous things to the pro. But you know, for example, the Lair. I never shot a gun before. I had a couple of days to learn how to fire an AK-47.
Right.
The Reckoning, I had to learn how to ride a horse in a few days. That was quite something. The sword fight, all that good stuff. So I try and do as much as I can.
So talking about action movies, kick-ass movies, is that what you call them? That's what the young kids say these days. I'm a big James Bond fan. I think actually the last James Bond we had, he was by far the best. I think sometimes we tend to forget how long he played that role. But we're going to get a new James Bond. I'm in the running. Yeah, I'm in the running. I've not heard back from him yet, but you're being touted as a possible Bond girl. Is that true?
All I can say is, you know what they say about rumours.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Somebody started them, didn't they?
Exactly. Yes, I guess the big question is who's going to be the next Bond, apart from yourself.
Yeah, well,
I think you and potentially Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
That would be a tough one.
It's a close call, isn't it?
It is.
So this Bond, I mean, the Bond girls, they don't tend to live very long, do they, Charlotte, in the films?
No.
Is that a problem?
No, I mean, it depends. I mean, some Bond girls do, some don't. You know, but, you know, whatever it would be incredible. And
but you spent I think, 10 years living in the United States, in the LA. You went there to chase a dream.
Yes.
You've got your dream. Would you advise other young people, young girls especially, to go to that part of the world? Or is it fraught with danger?
No, I think you don't have to go to LA now to you know, pursue the industry. If it's writing, acting, producing, directing, I think you can do it anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in this day and age with the iPhone and technology, you don't need to go to the States. Okay. But my advice would be do it. I didn't think twice. Someone said to me, if you want to be an actress, if this is what you really want to do, go to the States. I didn't even think twice. I said, okay, I'm
But like you say, you don't have to go to the States, do you?
No, you don't. And, you know, thinking back, maybe I didn't have to, but, you know, I don't regret it because, you know, I am where I am today because I went to the States.
But was there regrets along the way, thinking, oh, I shouldn't have done this, or I've not done the right thing?
Always.
Yeah.
Always. I think any path, anyone's journey, there's always going to be hurdles and difficult times, and you have to just go forward and focus on the overall picture and your goal.
Yeah. And what about your old school friends? Are they still in touch with them? Are they proud of you? No?
Not really, no. I think, you know, I left here because I was very young, and we're just, you know, I have one, but we're very different, you know. I don't know. I've kind of got that American mentality.
So when you was growing up, dressing up in probably mum's clothes and putting the makeup on and doing all the girly things, who was the actress or actor that you looked up to the most?
Growing up, it'd have to be David Jason. I grew up on Only Fools and Horses.
Oh, yeah, okay. I was thinking more like Hollywood stuff, but that'll do.
Honestly, growing up as a kid, I grew up on Only Fools and Horses.
Yeah.
David Jason is,
Okay.
But now, obviously, I have other mentors and legends, of course.
Right, we're behind the marsh, Charlotte.
Okay, yes.
We're going to go on the poll. We're going to get Wayne back in. Okay. Wayne, come on in, my friend. He's been He's been hilarious all afternoon.
I worked with Sean Connery.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, name's dropping. Wayne. Yeah, okay.
Are you Moneypenny?
Potentially, maybe.
Well, like, street rules.
I'm that
Oh, sorry. Come on,
have to be
competition here.
Come on, Wayne, it's all about you. Mind you,
What are we doing?
All you got to do, you got 30 seconds.
You big boy. Right, here. God, I
can't do this.
It's a race, right?
Right, get your pint pot.
What?
Get your pint pot. Right, pull a pint. You got 30 seconds to pull a pint and then bang it on the table.
Oh, where is it going?
It's coming.
It's not coming up.
Oh,
mine's empty.
Okay, well.
Okay, well, I'm way ahead of you.
Well, let Charlotte pull her in then, Wayne, first.
I don't believe it.
Well, you've done something to it, haven't you? You had one job. If you just slot that on there, Charlotte.
I'm very generous. I'm sorry, I'm very generous.
I'm at the bath.
I've got no froth.
Wait,
Don't worry about it. I get supplies of froth.
Here, come on.
Oh, right, just a minute. Let me do it then.
Jesus Christ.
That's just a little bit. There we go. You've got more froth than me, though.
Oh, yes.
There you go. If you just...
It's got a lovely head on it.
Yeah. Can we just put that on the bar, please?
Would you like that one?
We'll drink that in a minute. So, look.
Customers don't like frost, does it?
Oh, I do. I like froth.
Yes, I like yours. It's very nice.
I like yours better.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm
wait.
good at acting, by the way, if you've got any spare parts. What?
Right, I want to let you judge Charlotte.
I was in a film called Tesson. I know. I was in a film called I've forgotten what it's called. The First Straight Train Robbery with Sean Connery and George Sloan. I prefer acting in film rather than on stage. So I could be right for you if you've got my high chair.
Right, I'm just going to go, I am.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. Oh, God. They can cut all that.
Well, look, Wayne, for your chattering, we're going to give you... Is that yours? No, that's yours, isn't it? That's yours.
That's Wayne's, that's mine. But I've got to say, I think Wayne's is better.
Yeah, it's a little bit short.
Well, like me. What's new?
So,
You meant that on purpose, didn't you?
Wayne, I'm going to give you 8 out of 10. Charlotte, sorry, 7, because there's no head on it.
Oh.
That has been probably the funniest on the poll we've done in 35 shows, I think it is.
Yes. I've never pulled a beer.
Charlotte, good luck with your acting in your films. Wayne, good luck with your exercise videos and stuff like that. So
Good, got to be good, and the book coming out in September.
the book. Cheers, darling.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
On the poll.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for watching Lee Anderson's Real World. It's been a cracking show. It's been probably the most enjoyable, funniest, brilliant show. Wayne. Thank you. You've been an absolute star. But coming up next, we've got Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Have you got a message for Mark?
Yes, we'll sign off now, shall we? Dun da 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 da. Bum bum.
Thank you, Lee. What a cracking show. Well, we've got a busy Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. What caused Nicola Sturgeon to burst into tears this week? That's the topic of my big opinion. You won't want to miss it. As the hunt for the suspected acid attacker continues, should foreign criminals be deported? We'll get the views of former BBC Crime Watch star Sue Cook, and she's not pulling her punches. Also, as they shift to the right, calling themselves the party of business, could Labour steal Tory votes? What do you think? And also, as the latest series of The Apprentice gets battered by critics, has reality TV had its day? We'll be asking a star of reality TV herself, the one and only pop superstar Kerry Katona. So, a busy hour to come. It is Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. Bring your own drinks. The admission is free.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
I'm Alex Deakin, and this is your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. Good evening. Tomorrow will stay pretty mild across the south, a blustery day again across parts of the north with a mixture of sunshine and showers. We've got high pressure to the south, low pressure to the north, and in between this weather front is just edging southwards. The isobars squeezing together. It's been very gusty over northeast England, southeast Scotland, staying that way into this evening, but slowly overnight the winds will ease at least a little bit. Staying breezy though, particularly in the far north with more showers in here. Some patchy rain for Wales and northern England, but many areas staying dry. And look at the temperatures, 9 or 10 degrees in most towns and cities, certainly through England and Wales. So a pretty mild